Welcome to the Two Literal Podcast, where we're talking all things fantasy, romantasy, romance, and dark romance books. It could be the latest releases, timeless classics, book news, and anything in between. So grab a drink, some snacks, maybe a book, and if we're live, a phone to call in, because Two Literal is on.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Two Literal. I am Tashee, and this is my niece, Olivia. And this is Ricki with us too, of course, my beautiful co-host. Ricki, this is unrelated to books, but I want to tell you, especially since Brian is background listening, you guys, we started the episode with no tech problems.
Yes.
I just wanted to point that out. Today was a good day. No tech problems. We all started on time.
And on time. I was going to say
on time with no tech problems.
That's right.
It must be Christmas gift.
I was going to say that too.
It's a Christmas miracle.
It's a Christmas miracle. So today we're going to be covering some of the novellas. But first, Ricki, what have you been reading?
The novellas. So the listeners don't know this, but I'm also back in school. And I don't know if Brian and Shayna knew that either, but I'm back in school. I work full time and all that. So these rereads have been pretty much it. I did finish. Tashee, you just told me the name of it.
Born of
Blood and Ash.
Yeah.
Okay, I just finished that. But I've been working on that for 2 months. So
what did you think
of Born of Blood? I just felt like because we've already read the normal series, the sequel to this. Mm-hmm. I think I was expecting to get more of that backstory at the finale of this one, if that makes sense. They did so much lead up, or she did so much lead up, and I don't feel like we got a whole lot of answers at the end. At the end, there still seemed like there was a cliffhanger when I didn't necessarily feel like, because we already know what's coming. You know what I mean? Why is there a cliffhanger? We already know what's coming. I guess it leads up to what's going to be the next book in the other series. But
I think that's why that one kind of does have a clip, because it's a prequel, and obviously they didn't remedy the problem. Kind of like Throne of Glass.
Yeah,
the problem
that's kind of
was
how I felt about it. It did have some big moments, and there were some emotional times, and I don't even get emotional. But I just felt like it could have answered and at least given us a happily ever after for the main couple in the book. And I don't even think we got that. We just got.
I don't think they get a happily ever after just yet. So right now I'm reading A Reign of Shadow and Endings. It's pretty good. It's actually in third person, and I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm not really a huge fan of third person. It's kind of weird.
No, I didn't know that.
But it's pretty good. It's kind of weird though, because everything is modern but still super dated. There are basically demigods or whatever that are related to gods, but the face serve the demigods. Immortals still exist, and the leaders of certain subsects get assigned a fae person, and this girl is at the little picking ceremony, and she's like, well, great for me. I'm not going to get picked. What do you think happens? Okay. And she hates it, and she's fighting the bond, and obviously she's not who they thought she was, because it's not a fantasy if the girl doesn't think she's one thing and find out she's another.
Right.
That is a common trope in fantasy. So that's going pretty good. I'm still trying to listen to it and everything, but I've been having a lot going on at work too. So you know how that goes. But I did finish The Blood of Hercules. And I know that you are going to be like, no, it's not finished. I don't want to hear it. I feel you, but I don't. You should totally listen to it. It was really good. It is a reverse harem. I kind of was like, okay, how many people is it a reverse harem? Because immediately I was like, it's 4. And then I was like, maybe it's 2.
Yeah.
Maybe it's 4. Is it 3? It was really good. Just this girl, she's homeless with her mute brother. By the way, a lot of books I've been reading lately, people have been using sign language a lot, because that book has sign language in it. Or they're mute. One dude's, his name is Achilles in there, and he's in the mask, kind of Selena, Aylin, whatever was, and couldn't talk and stuff, and he has to sign. But Anyway, my whole point is pretty good book. They take this exam. Her finger burns the exam, and she the first, like, I don't know, demigod of like hundreds of years. So she has to go do this horrible thing with these all boys and everybody trying to kill her. I mean, trials, like you can't be. And I think hers are kind of different because like she has to go stay with these people that are training her because like you get your full powers when you turn 20 or something like that. Yeah. She has to go stay with the people that are training her, and they don't let them sleep or eat for 2 weeks. So they be half crazy. So some of the scenes are like her kind of like waking up one place, going to sleep another, waking up because she's kind of like delirious, for lack of a better term. So it's kind of cool. I like it.
It's interesting to me how we see those types of books for adults, like what you just mentioned. They're going through some type of trial or some type of academy and things like that. I don't feel like we get enough of that in like movies or TV shows. They always make it a kid version, and no, we need the adult version. I know that they were talking about. They're now talking about Quicksilver, which I don't know if that's actually gonna come to fruition. But then they're talking about.
She said the author actually announced it with Netflix, and remember that show? I think we talked about it before. First Kill. Do you remember when that was the vampire show? The lady that writes The Secret Life of Addie LaRue. She is the same author for that, and most of her stuff gets signed by Netflix when it gets signed.
Okay.
So I think Netflix is kind of like Reese Witherspoon. They pull what they can from books.
And I know Sarah J. Maas was talking about doing the same at one point, but it seems like I read somewhere, I don't know if it's true or not, but about them putting a pause on that. So I'm interested to see more of that come out because obviously there's a following for it with all the people that are fans of the books themselves.
Well, I was going to say a lot of people have, I think we've talked about this like personally, but not necessarily on the pod. A lot of people have shows coming out. To your point about the book you were reading, JLA has a deal with Amazon for From Blood and Ash.
Okay.
I don't know who Raven Kennedy has hers with, but she's getting the show for The Plated Prisoner. Don't know how that's going to work. Has to be HBO because that one's a little spicier in my opinion than. I think there's more plot in. They're not bad stories because I don't want to say more plot like the other one is plotless, but I feel like you would lean more into the plot for From Blood and Ash, whereas Gold is going to be a lot more about the spicy stuff that's going on or whatever. Because I mean, just inopportune things happen at inopportune times in that one. And Legendborn has a deal, and I think Sarah J. Maas was with Hulu, but I don't know the status on them, kind of like you said.
So how do you feel about, I've seen the argument that they feel like instead of trying to find the perfect people to cast these characters, to make it an animated series, almost like an anime, or what's like American anime? There has to be a word for it because it's not the same
adult
thing.
Animation, kind of, sort of. Mixed feelings. I feel like some stuff can be done like that. Okay, so I know this is like off and on topic. The book I was telling you about, the Drew Collins book, the Granger book, The Secret World of Maggie Gray, the one I've been telling you to read. The way the character looks on the front of that book, kind of like stop motion gummy type situation, I could see that being more adult animation and it being better received that way. Kind of like, do you remember how Jeff does some of his stop motion stuff? Kind of something like that. I think it would be dope. I just think you would have to have the audience for it, and I don't know if readers are the audience for it.
For the adult animation. Well, the problem is everybody has their own version of what these characters, because you know who my Rhysand is, but everybody else has a different Rhysand. And the same thing with a lot of the characters. Like some people we see when they're doing whatever it's called when you cast a celebrity, like fan casting, it's way different than what I see in my head. So I think that to alleviate that, some people think that it should be just an animation so that the author has full, control over what these characters look like.
I personally I felt softer towards the boys, and I feel like that's not a genuine experience if you can't be upset with them from the beginning and be like, they're disgusting, they're despicable. Because when everybody's like, how did your opinion change about them? I feel like it's a journey, You can't go unless you're
Yeah,
on the
but
journey.
even without reading As Told by the Boys, I feel like we at least see glimpses of the fact that it's not necessarily something they want to do. I feel like this book led us into their, obviously, because from their point of view, into their emotions a little bit more. But even with Caleb, maybe not so much with Seth and Max. Those are the two that you really feel like just really want to do this. Like they seem like it's fun or something. But between Darius and Caleb, I feel like we see even in the normal the awakening story, yeah, we see them conflicting with themselves, and then eventually we get introduced to Darius's dad, so we understand, why he's doing the things that he's doing. And so obviously we've read these stories before. This was my first time reading As Told by the Boys, but I don't feel like it gave me any more insight than what we see in the first couple of books, and maybe not the first book, but the first couple for sure.
I always feel like somebody gets cheated a little bit on the story here.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like that Max got to. It's almost not peer pressure in the same kind of way, but you can kind of see how much he cares about his friends. Like even though it kind of overwhelms him to experience the feelings of everybody he's hurting, for the sake of their friendship, he's willing to do that. And
do
I
you think that
was
makes him? He presents as being one of the harder or meaner ones, however you want to say it, because of that.
For sure, because I mean, and it's probably another facet to that too. One thing that I think probably makes him present like that all the time is because his order is probably viewed as soft because they can, be affected by the emotions of others. He probably goes out of his way to be a little bit more wicked than necessary to prove that he's not soft, like that kind of thing.
Yeah. Like I said, Max and Seth are the two, and even in this book, we saw glimpses of it, or in the novella. But I don't feel like in the beginning, I still was like, I don't understand where the turning point was for both of them, because I see Seth and I understand that he's feeling like the moment when, from his perspective, when the first thing happened with Darcy and cutting her hair off. We see Seth basically saying, okay, I know I'm about to cross a boundary that I can't come back from, like internally. Am I really ready to do this? But still, though, I feel like he hyped himself up and he made it like a game type of situation where we saw Caleb and we saw Darius still being a little bit more solemn, like this is just something we have to do. You know what I mean? Not something I'm looking forward to doing.
I think part of that too was a lot of their justification is we're going to have to make hard decisions one day because we're going to be controlling the kingdom. So this is the time for us to prove it. But also, I would like to speak to like family dynamics a little bit. Whereas Max has a loving parent, he also has conflict at home with the whole stepmom and sister situation going on. Seth doesn't necessarily have unloving parents, but he is only the focus because he's the heir. It's so many of them that, it's not, we never see him intimately talking about speaking to his mom throughout the series. You never see Seth talking about speaking to his mom or his dad. Caleb's parent, or his mom anyway, not even just from Ruthless Boys, but we know that like just later in the series, she is a person that plans with contingencies, so. And I think you could argue that Seth, or not Seth, Caleb might be the most prepared heir of all of them, with a more full grasp of what's going to be expected of him. So I think having that connection with his mom, a level of transparency, probably is why he was more emotionally conflicted than others. And for Darius, he has an emotional connection too, with Xavier being there. Right. That is like a familiar connection that makes him a little bit more soft, cushiony, if you will, whatever you want to call it. He has a lot more of that because of Xavier. But again, he has a dad who's basically pushing him away from that. So I think he kind of has a tug of war situation going on with his emotions. That would be my perspective.
Was it in this one where we saw the situation with Seth not being invited back to his family's big, it wasn't the eclipse, it was some type of party that they annually have, and she banned Seth from coming because they haven't dealt with the girls yet. he was super upset about it.
No, I know we're talking about all the novellas, so I don't really think there's a chronological order that we need to go into. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure that one was part of the big ass party when they had that night, because that's how he ended up with Darcy and Lance that night.
I was just going to say that all of the novellas, from their perspective, we do get to see them interact more with their parents. And to your point, we see the different dynamics in all of those situations. And I know that by far Darius kind of has it worse than anybody else, because not only does he not have his dad, but his mom, which we later find out is due to something. But his mom, we've already talked about that, so that's not a spoiler, right?
Yeah, we've already done book 5, so
yeah. So we find out that his mom has been compelled to basically not be a mom to him and Xavier anymore, and not kind of have an emotional attachment, be like all business all the time from their dad. So I do feel like I enjoyed it from that perspective, because we get to see a little bit more of that. But yeah, I don't feel like it gave me any super big insight into them that we don't see up until the point that we've gotten to like book 3 or 4. When did this one come out in the order of things though?
Oh, publication order? I am not sure. By the time I had read, we had made it to I was waiting on book set 8 to come out when I was reading, so I made it pretty far. Before we go to big ass party, I was thinking we should talk about origins a little bit. So when I read Ruthless Boys and I read this series before I read Origins, I initially thought like Clara had to be kind of like forced into this. But between reading Ruthless Boys and reading this, the fact that she was kind of an active participant, I still fully don't understand why. Part of me is like, I feel like she kind of says at one point that it was like to protect Lance, but the extent into which she was an active participant was kind of scary. Like, Lance don't got no family. Don't nobody like him.
And I didn't feel that way. In reading both this and Ruthless Boys, I never got that Clara wasn't some type of active participant, because they talk about it almost as if she was messing around with Darius's dad, with Lionel. And obviously in this book we get to see a little bit of that, but like the fact that she comes back calling him daddy and all kind of stuff, to me that was an indication that there was something going on beforehand,
Well, see, in my so I think Lionel is vile, so I put nothing past him. I just assumed that he dark coursed her. By the way, you said compelled earlier, and I was like, oh, she been watching Vampire Diaries.
Oh man, I didn't even realize that. I've been trying my best not to go back and rewatch that. Maybe I'll go read the book instead this time. So
they're pretty different.
This is off subject of the books, but I'm only on book 70. I think I'm on actually 77. I said 76 on Facebook earlier. I think I'm on 77 for the year. And I want to shoot for 100, but part of, yes, I did count these, like rereads and everything. And that's why I was like sad. But part of that is because I don't know, how I am about, I'm okay with a standalone, but I want the story to be finished. I don't want to have a bunch of cliffhangers I'm waiting a year to get to. And I don't know how many more series are out there that I can get to my 100 books unless I keep going back and rereading stuff.
Well, I have a suggestion. The War of the Lost Hearts by Carissa Broadbent. She's the lady that writes Serpents in the Wings of Night, but it's a finished series and it's only 3 books.
Okay. Well, I know there are some out there that I haven't read. It's just,
but it's like Game of Thrones vibes. So like, no, I'm sorry, not Game of Thrones. Throne of Glass vibes. So like, it's that kind of writing. It's more epic fantasy than epic romance, but there is romance.
Gotcha. I mean, I'm okay with that. Yeah, I think part of that is there are multiple series that I have my eye on, but is it 100 books worth of it is the problem. Because there are some that I know that I want to get into. There's the War of Lost Hearts. Okay. There are multiple that I want to get into, but like you said, it's like 3 or 4 books at a time. So like I said, are there 100 books worth, or am I just going back and reading stuff? And I even have ventured outside of, because I was actually thinking of, you said, darn, what did you just mix up for Throne of Glass?
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. I even thought about going back and actually reading that one. And that's not necessarily, to me, it's not romance anyway.
You know what else? Nobody's ever read this book with me, so I'm going to just suggest my favorite go-to series. It's fantasy too. it's completed. It is 6 books, but the books are like 250 pages a book. I think the most is like 350. The Georgina Kincaid series, Succubus Blues by Rochelle Mead.
Oh, you've told me about that. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome series. It's really good. You don't expect like the undercurrent plot. She's a succubus that works for hell, and she works at a bookstore, like such a queen.
Yeah.
Immediately, such a queen. But like her favorite author comes to do a book signing, and like she doesn't know she's sleeping with her boss. It's like she got like a vampire friend. She works for a demon. It's a pretty great series. You should totally try it out.
I know we've talked about Elizabeth Briggs' books, that which I know you've read some of her other novels, but the Zodiac Wolves one is one of my favorite. I still need you to pick up Stephanie Hudson.
Oh, which one by Stephanie
That's
Hudson?
Afterlife, and I know you already have the books. That's Afterlife, Transfusion, and also Helby's King. And Helby's King is the only one that is not completed. And then I think she has some novellas. I'm not sure if they're full series, but they're novellas for some of the spinoff characters. So you get a book for each main character. And this is, I mean, it's a lot of books. I think each series itself has like 12, 14 books, but I don't think they're very long. To your point, I think they're more like 300-ish. No, these are actually, I think Helby's King had most of theirs on Audible, and Afterlife may be on Audible now, but when I first started reading them, they were not. So these are ones I actually physically read.
I'm gonna do it. I've been really kind of crazy with my mood reading lately, because like October was like 25 books. This month it was like 2, 3, like like, so it just kind of depends. But even this book that I'm reading, The Reign of Shadows and Endings, is because she's going to be in Vancouver. And I said I wanted to try some of her work. And it's actually going good. So that's actually exciting. And they said she has some interconnecting stories too. And I got like 2 of them in one of my book subscription boxes. So I'm going to try that out too.
And that's in April?
July.
Okay. July. What am I thinking is in April? It's a lot of book.
Polycon is in April.
Gotcha. Okay.
Polycon is in April.
Gotcha. So back to Origins of the Academy fully. Sorry. I never got that from Claire. I always kind of thought that she had something going on with Lionel. To be honest, I was more surprised that it wasn't more. I actually thought, because when we see her here, it's almost like she has like a crush on him more than them actually having a physical relationship. But I actually thought they were like completely messing around, and that it didn't actually go all the way there in this one.
Yeah, and also, like, I don't know, is Clara or Stella the problem? Because girl, not y'all all sleeping with Lionel. He can't be that fine. He too mean.
Don't we find out that he has he's not well endowed?
Girl. Yeah, girl. Lionel running around looking like that.
Well, it's funny. Oh, that's a spoiler. We can't talk about it. I was going to say what happens when the Shadow Princess actually fully talks about how pleased she is, but that comes later.
Just gross.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. And to your point, maybe there is a form of coercion. And then also, he did make Clara like his first guardian. Is that not what they talked about in this one?
Clara was already his guardian. This is more about how basically Lance and Darius were kind of like huddled in the room and locked the door. And they was like, y'all gonna figure this out. Lance like, no, I want to go play pit ball. I'm signed up to go to the pit ball league. And they was like, gotcha. You thought you was getting out of here.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that their lives are pretty shit, in my opinion. Yeah. Nobody's really happy with what's going on in their life, but they kind of blame Tori and Darcy. But you can just see like when the seeds were already planted for their lives to not go as planned.
Yeah.
Pretty much all the other heirs, all their parents are like, you have to be like best friends with the other heirs and blah, blah, blah. Lionel was already pulling Darius away from them while pushing him towards them too, with the dark coercion, the beatings, blah, 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 getting him a guardian and everything like that. Also, retrospectively, Lionel doesn't have a guardian in present time anymore, It is kind of Well, I think it speaks to Lionel's power that the two of them can't take him.
Yeah.
At once, like before he even has the shadows, the two of them can't take him at once.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. What else from Origins? I feel like that's the main point of Origins. Because these are novellas, there's not as much to get into as like we normally do. But
yeah, this one was only like a 2-hour listen, and that's why we kind of felt like putting them all together. But I do want to point out that the Origins of the Academy bully, so we see Ruthless Boys and we see how Orion specifically is. We don't really we meet Darius maybe one time. But we see how Orion is in Ruthless Boys. Well, this had to be maybe a year or two after that, after we see him being
or the end of the
stuff.
series even.
Yeah, right after we see him from Ruthless Boys. And so now we're going into Origin of the Academy Billy. His life completely changes. He loses his sister. His dad has already passed away at this point. And then his mom and just her motives are, have come out. And then he's the person that he is at the beginning of Zodiac Academy. So I felt like this one was a lot more insightful to me than even the As Told by the Boys. And that one was much longer read than this one was, because it was a retelling,
Yeah, it definitely felt like this one kind of explained the transition in Orion, because if you just go from Ruthless Boys into Zodiac Academy, you're like, dang, he was like, a whole different person. Yeah. He wouldn't even drink or anything, and now he's basically an alcoholic. So, and I guess our last one we need to speak to is the big ass party. So before this was the big ass party, it was just it was Geraldine telling about her and Max on the full moon night or whatever. So I think it's like super cool that it turned into a whole book. But initially I was like really excited that Max and Geraldine had their own story. Like it really made me excited to start playing these pebbles, because I feel like their relationship started to bloom like way later than everybody else's too.
Yeah. But, I was glad to see some of the conversations, like the fact that she revealed about her being engaged, essentially
betrothed.
We never got to see that actual conversation. We just got to see the aftermath of it. So that kind of stuff I enjoyed. It was also very fun, and I feel like I'm always the one that brings up the sex scenes, but their scene was very interesting. Their scene was very interesting because Geraldine is Geraldine, and how she talks and interacts with people and all of that. And then to see her be, I won't even say the aggressor, because I could see her being the aggressor, but in the way that she is, it was just very funny.
What cracks me up? Geraldine says the craziest things, like, oh, I wish I had some of the stuff that Geraldine says. It's the craziest stuff. She'll be like, because Max is a water element and he swims underwater and he's a siren, she'll call him something like Fish Boy, and say like, you salamander, and and that's even when they're being intimate, and he'll be like, yeah, you like this shrimp or something, and she'll be like, why would you say that? like lady, you were crazy first. And then she'd be like disgusted.
Yeah. She said something like, I thought we were, I'm gonna have to find the quote because I don't want to get it wrong. But basically was surprised at how well endowed he was, at the beginning. But like you said, she always has some funny way of putting it, like a barracuda or like whatever she said it was.
What did she call it about something like, I wanted to say water in her lawn? Is that what she be saying?
Something. I don't know.
It's crazy. The fact that she, like, he can say something that sounds equally as crazy back to her. She'd be like, why would you say that? Like, why would you say it? But it's so funny. They are the funny thing. Be like, you can't come back. The way she just kind of does him, I think Max probably needed that. But she would be very much like, I'm not dealing with you ever again.
Yeah.
It's one and done, but it's hilarious. Another very Geraldine thing. Why does she like them poofy dresses? You know what? Anytime I read this story and she talks about the dresses that she tried to put them in or the ones she wears, do you remember watching Cinderella growing up? The cartoon Cinderella and the big puffy dresses her sisters were wearing with the bushels on the back.
Yeah, that's what I pictured.
That's exactly what I pictured. Yeah. It's trying to have a big butt. She probably does have like those Shirley Temple finger curls and some weird updo And not in a
Yeah.
Bridgerton way either. Not in a Bridgerton way. And very much a like, I use
maybe like a Cressida
toilet
though.
roll. Yeah, okay, maybe a little bit. Not Cressida, whatchamacallit sisters. Penelope's sisters, Penn sisters.
Oh, and
like
I do
the
not
first
remember
few
their names.
seasons.
Yeah.
The first few seasons. But yeah, that's what I think of every time. But also, because we haven't recapped 6 yet. I think the droppings, the seeds that are planted here for how Tori and Darius, I was about to say Dory, because Tori and Darius.
Yeah.
How Darius and Tori are responding to the new dynamic of their relationship since her rejecting them. So I think because him getting her a gift, it's like, oh, that's sweet. Too little, too late.
Yeah.
Y'all can't even be next to each other without the world turning upside down. But I guess. But yeah.
I was gonna say that there is a point. I can't remember if it was Christmas or like what, but there was a point where Geraldine made them a dress and they didn't put the dress on, but then they put like a glamour on themselves. I don't know what it's called.
So she could see the dress?
Yes. And I don't know why I was expecting the same thing to happen for this party, but it was so tragic that they thought it was going to be just a small dinner and everything. And they show up in this dress just to be, okay with it for Geraldine. For her. And then out pops everybody else.
And everybody,
I would be mortified.
Listen, that's how I know that they actually love Geraldine, because I've been like, girl, I can't do it. I appreciate it, but no. And wouldn't it just be like so fitting if they had like, like when they did everything for Halloween, when they like dressed up as like all that kind of stuff, if Geraldine came out in the sluttiest costume ever, like wouldn't that be just so fitting for her to be like, I'm just dressing like everybody else, and her thinking it's a real costume because she's dressing like everybody else and she doesn't dress like that. It's such a Geraldine thing. Did I tell you the dramatization for book 2 is out?
I don't think so, but I don't think I ever went back and listened to the first one. Even this reread, I did the regular version. I didn't do the dramatization.
I did the dramatization for the first one on the reread. I thought I was going to be able to get all of them, but they're not all out yet. So it was pretty good. It was kind of like, I have a little bit of the ADHD, so it was nice to have all the sirens and sounds and Tori starting up motorcycles, blah, blah, blah.
But then how do you do that and also still listening like 2 times, but with all the sounds?
I don't know if I listened to it fast then. I'm pretty sure I did. But if I'm being completely honest with you, that's how things work in my brain. That's how fast my brain is going all the time. So that's why I can listen to it like that. Like, it's always like, like it's always an undercurrent of stuff going on. So like, it just works for me. I'm not telling you to do it.
This generation wouldn't know what it sounds like to like rewind something and like the sound that.
That's kind of what it is.
Okay, so I went out with my sister. Yeah, I went out with my sister one day, and I think I was just getting my oil change or something, and the dealership had a VCR. And so I put in, they had like Disney movies. I put in a Disney movie and I was rewinding it. My sister was like, what is that sound? I was like, what are you talking about? I rewinded the movie. So when you talk about, listening, and I have done some of them, like I want to say, as told by the boys, I listened in not 2 times, maybe 1.5. And my husband was like, what is that? And so in his mind, I think that it sounds like if you are rewinding or fast forwarding and how people talk when you're doing that. So I don't know how you would do that to a dramatization and you have actual actors and stuff.
It's no different. Like, it's like, if you cut the movie on and had it going faster, because like you've never listened to like a YouTube video at like one time, a little bit faster just to kind of get through.
No.
Okay, so like you're,
and I have, like I might be a little bit ADHD too, but I don't think it's in that way. My mind is
like
racing.
it kind of gets aggravating. Like even now, just sitting here, she's asleep, right? We're talking. My leg is going like 20 miles per minute, jumping under here because like it just, I don't know. Or like now since I got the Switch, which by the way I had to show you, I got the Switch.
Oh, now since I have the Switch, I didn't know which one.
The white one is the only one that was like OLED that came with the game. So that's the why I got the white one. But now, do you think I don't put these headphones on and play the Switch at the same time? because I need something else to do, and it has to be like 2 or 3 times the speed.
And see, I'm the opposite because I think the whole reason that I picked up reading is because that was a form of me kind of, you guys, it's not the snake today, it's the tarantula. And she's like, never out. So I don't know what's going on up there. So for me, reading, reading is the form of me kind of shutting those thoughts down because it's immersing me in another world. That's why you'll see me repost on my page a lot of times when people think that you're just sitting there and being still and reading. But in my mind, though, there's a whole world being formed. And that's why, and music does the same thing for me. That's why I've always kind of been a music buff. And so these are the two kind of forums of me quieting all that is, because like my husband talks about how he can ride in complete silence. And he feels like people that can't ride in complete silence, like aren't in tune with themselves and things like that. I'm like, no, it's not that. I don't think negative thoughts in silence. I just have a lot of thoughts. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sometimes like it's just a little one thing after another, overstimulating. So yeah, I feel the same way. Listening to books is still relaxing. Even playing the game is relaxing. It's just I'm a person that fidgets, I guess you can say, and that just gives me something to do while I'm listening to the book. But to your point about music, and we're also talking about books, I had an idea, and I think we should do it next time that we podcast. You know how Spotify does like the music wrap up?
Yeah.
Or whatever. I know you're still working on your books. You're still at like whatever number you're at. I think 76 is what you said. We should do a wrap up and just kind of go over what we read, just because we should do our own little like wrap up video list or something. And we can like list like our top books for the year. I mean, obviously the year's not over, whatever. We still got to finish Goldfinch.
No, you have to finish. I finished.
I feel like that's a we thing.
And that was over the summer.
Listen, Linda. I'm trying. She doesn't want to come out with the audio until March. What do you want me to do? You know how I feel about reading. I'm trying.
That's so contradictory, but yeah.
Hey, not too much now. Not too much now. I know. I'm aware. I'm trying as hard as I can. I think we covered everything today. Did you have more to add to any of the novellas? I know we didn't really go over It's All About the Boys, but it really is the same story, just from the boys' perspective.
Yeah.
More just of their emotions. And like I said, we knew Caleb was conflicted. He confirmed it. We knew Darius was conflicted. He confirmed it. We did not know Max and Seth were conflicted, but they were.
As much.
Maybe not to the extent as everybody else. And to be fair, I thought Max would be not conflicted at all because he doesn't have as intimate relationship with the twins as everybody else.
Yeah, I will say that I kind of knew Seth was conflicted, but I always thought it was because he had a crush on Darcy, not because of other stuff, with his parents and stuff like that. So it was nice to see more of that it wasn't so much about his own, more selfish reasons. It was actually him being pressured to do things. But yeah. And also, I held off for the longest in reading the novellas, but they were enjoyable. I didn't
Yeah, they added more context to the story, and like how we talk about some books sometimes being palate cleansers. In a way, they kind of are. It's not as intimidating as let me get to the next book, to the next story to see what's going to happen. It's kind of like stuff you already know. It just gives you like way more context. And since Foxy Tales is on sale,
I was just going to say that. Okay.
What? Oh my God. We got ESPN. ESPN, like football, but pitball. Since Foxy Tales is out now, I think we may have to do another novella one because we didn't do Seth on the Move and we didn't do Long Live Lionel. So. But I feel like those are later books anyway. And some of them are kind of the same type of things. Like the throne scene with Darcy and Tori comes up, but from Darius's perspective, the cotton candy scene from the fairy fair, but from Lance's perspective.
Okay. So Brian brought this up because I want to clarify that, first of all, Foxy Tales is one of the novellas, and it's a collection of stories throughout the story. Okay, this one only goes on sale sometimes because it's actually a charity novel.
And it is not $440.
I was going to say that. Okay, so you would buy the audiobook, but there's another link to the physical book if you want it. That's only like $15-$20, something like that.
Yeah.
Do not spend $440 on this book, because that I think it's from another vendor. It's only about like I said, it's between 15 and 20 if you want the physical book. But it does go to charity. I can't believe they put that on there. I don't know who did that. Maybe it's because that may say used, y'all. I can't hardly see, but
I think it says by
maybe
used,
it's because
still,
it doesn't.
It is used.
Okay, so it only goes on sale like once a year, if that. And so people may be selling it like a collector, but no, do not spend that on it right now. They re-released it for right now, so
it has a different cover too. It'll match your other Zodiac books. So Foxy Tales is probably what we should do for next novella. Long Live Vinyl and Seth on the Moon. Seth on the Moon is one of my favorites. It's like, first of all, Seth is so chaotic fun, like the perfect kind of chaotic fun, that him having his own novella is like the best thing ever. It's like if Leon had his own novella. Or even
Leon, or I was, darn it.
ESPN.
You're in my head today.
That's why we read books together. Who better than us? I'm sad we didn't have Jazz with us today. She wasn't feeling well, guys, but I would like to see how it changed her perspective if she doesn't know like everything that's happened yet. Like how that would just make her feel about everybody.
You know, you guys added me to the text thread. I was surprised we didn't get more of her. We got more of her reactions from 6 and her rereading 6 than the novellas.
Cause she probably just zoomed through them like, nah, I gotta get to what's happening, you know, like the meat and potatoes. That's like, yeah, cool. So what? Who's Clara? She doesn't know how big Clara is gonna be later.
Yeah.
you know, like like, or Clara and Elle. That's what we're gonna call them. Elle, you know, like she doesn't know. So do you have plans to read anything else? Because I know we're gonna step away for a little while, unfortunately, as we take our break. But do you have any plans for anything else you're reading?
Oh goodness, what is it? Onyx
Storm.
Okay, Onyx Storm is coming out in January, so of course I am going to be reading that one. And then I also have the last book in Helby's King, which I assume is going to be coming out maybe first quarter of the year. I don't know if she's actually set a release date, but I know that it's in the works. And then I want to say there's one more. Darn, I wish I had looked this up beforehand. There's like 2 or 3 that are continuations of books I've already read or series I've already been starting on that are coming out around the first quarter of the year. So I'll have that for everybody once we reconvene.
So I'll be doing Onyx Storm too, of course. The Secret World of Maggie Gray, the last one comes out the 31st of January. So I'll be I need to finish book 2. So I'll do that and be ready for that by that time. And it's something else that's coming out in January, and I cannot think of what it is right now.
No, it's like, and I know we're excited about them, but it's just not on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, it's a lot of books coming out. You know, From Blood and Ash should finish next year. Blood of Hercules, the second book is Bonds of Hercules. I can't wait to read that. I really think you should read that. It's like, first of all, the main character has a stutter. Uh-oh. You okay, girl? We good? Yeah, we good. The main character has a stutter, and her internal monologue is so funny, but she can't get the words out the same.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, like, she'll say something and be like, oh, finally she said it. She was like, that's what I would have said if. You're like, dang it. Like, you know, like, you were almost there, girl.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that series. And I know you haven't read it yet, but the Book of Azrael, I think book 5 will be out. I think it's a 6-book series. I want to say she has a book deal too. Or I'm sorry, movie deal.
Like a movie deal. Yeah.
To elaborate on that from earlier. So I'm excited for quite a few books next year. Not gonna lie.
So I'm ashamed, but not really. I should be, but I'm not really. I went to a solo movie to see Moana 2.
Why would you be ashamed of that? That's
because first of all, I left my kids at home and I went, but I mean, they're almost teenage boys.
Disney movies are not made for kids yeah, it's not made for early 2000, late 2000 kids. They're made for 90s kids, all Disney movies. And we can't help that we're adults.
So I
We
said
just
that to
woke up
say
adults.
that the previews actually have me excited about a lot of movies coming out next year. So that is what I'm looking for. Because I don't feel like there were very many that I was super excited about this year. But next year there are
I
quite a
want to
few
go see
coming out.
Wicked.
I do
I'm probably
too,
gonna
but the reason I didn't for my solo movie is because it's almost a 3-hour long movie, and I think that's a like at home type of deal.
I know. I
Me
wonder when it's
personally,
gonna be
but I
streaming.
am looking forward to seeing it. So
I'm gonna have to see when I can stream it, or I might
yeah,
even just take myself on a solo movie. Well, was Moana good? Was the second one
I
good?
thoroughly enjoyed myself. And
That's what I
Moana
thought.
2. And I do think it left the door open for a 3. There's something after the credits, as Disney does, that opens the door for another one to come. So I really liked it. And there are more Disney movies, but also just more movies in general that I'm looking forward to next year. Gladiator 2 just came out. I know that's this year, but I want to go see that. So not
My
only
friend
with
said it
books,
was
but
good.
with movies and stuff, I think there's a lot going on in 2020.
Like our initial friend love affair reigniting is because of the sex toy thing, but also because we watched a lot of the same shows,
Yeah.
like around the same time. There's not really a lot of shows that I'm watching, so I'm happy to see that you're like back into movies.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Have you watched Agatha All Along? I know that you like do the Marvel stuff. I heard it's really good, and I haven't watched it yet.
I don't have an either. And I will say that because I didn't finish Loki, and so there are some more that I also want to get into. I just, in between everything else going on, I haven't picked up as many series, and I don't feel like they're as good as they used to be, when we were watching the same things either. So
Yeah, because remember our whole debate about sex life? We used to have really good debates about TV shows.
yeah, yeah, we did, and a lot
Okay,
of them went off. I was telling my husband a lot of the TV shows that I watched. I mean, they started in like the early 2000s, so something had to be good about them for them to still be going on up until right before I met him. It's 20 years of watching the same
maybe it's
show.
his
So
fault.
no, that's funny.
Maybe it's his fault. If you met him and then all the shows just went to trash.
Like I'm still emotional about Sam and Dean on Supernatural.
Yeah. Oh, I watched Sandman and it was pretty good. Do you know, like once upon a time, a long time ago, it was a succubus show on TV. It's called Lost Girl. You should
Oh
watch
wow,
it. It was a
no.
sci-fi show.
Yeah.
They like were all fairies and everything. It was a whole thing. But I think we are wrapping up. Don't forget to follow us. Me and Ricki have plans for posting a little bit more. I'm gonna try to entice her. Everybody help me to do our wrap ups for the end of the year.
Yeah.
Just so we can say
We
what
can
we
do that.
read, what we
Mhm.
did, and we can vote. And we'll use Jazz as a tiebreaker for what she has read to break stuff when we can't decide what goes on the list. But don't forget to follow us, like our TikTok, Instagram, all the things and stuff. Do you have anything to add, Ricki?
Nope, that's all. We'll be coming back shortly.
Bye, guys.